You know it's No Ideas Original.
Welcome to the No Ideas Original podcast featuring Shannon, Mr. Rob, and Ken. Episode, what is this, 186?
186. We lose a count.
Yeah, time flies. That means that we put in a lot of work.
That's it, bro.
Yo, well, before we got started, I heard you telling your story, Rob. You want to tell it on the air to people?
Well, yeah. Listen, I'm going to just say this. When you get a certain age, hitting the concrete feels a lot different. I'm going to just say that. So, but I was doing some yard work, doing some leaf blowing in an area of my yard that has some rocks or whatever. So I had a young man come and do some leaf blowing for me. But he put the leaf blower, he didn't even do nothing. He just moved it out the way and put it in the wrong area. So I'm like, I gotta do all this all over. Hard to find good help. So I'm over there, leaf blowing, getting in the cracks. I step on one little rock. Now, mind you, it's a big rock, but it ain't sturdy. I step in it. I'm like, oh, I got the leaf blower in my hand. And then I'm like,
yo, you know what? No, I'm bugging on Rob the other day. I was saying, you know how you officially get old when you start thinking about what your lawn look like? Like, that's how you know you get old. The other day I came home from work. I was looking because our HOA must contract with somebody new now to do the lawn. I'm like, yo, this lawn look terrible.
Like it needed a new haircut, right?
Yeah, it's just something to complain about. You start getting old and grumpy. Right. What's up with you, Ken? How you doing?
Oh, man, I'm good, man. I got that first lawn cut recently. The first lawn cut is always long for the season. So got that going, got that week to week set up, so I should be good.
We're right back at it, man. Bugs and cutting grass.
Yeah, I do want to say, and I know you'll see it scrolling at the bottom of the screen. I want to formally say, rest in peace to the brother Norm Bates. He was a good dude that we all fortunate enough to know. I happened to meet him through Rice and Pat, the producer Straight Bangers, many years ago, and maintained the relationship with him. And he's just an all around admirable, good dude. He was a single dad, raising his daughter because her mom passed away, and he did a hell of a job. But he passed away suddenly, and I want to acknowledge his contribution and support to everything that we ever did involving a platform. Years ago, him and I, we did music, we played ball, we did a lot of things together, and just all around good brother. And Rob, I know you probably know him better. You want to say anything?
Yeah, I actually grew up with his sister Evelyn. She was in our peer group, but her two brothers, Gonzalo and Norm, they were with their sister, and everywhere she went, they went. So they kind of ended up in the fold of knowing and being around everyone. But Norm in particular was a great young man. He had the charm in his smile. He always had, just manners. He was always funny, very outgoing, but very respectful, man.
Mm-hmm.
It hurt me to find out that he passed because, he called me very often. I know he knew about my kidney situation. He would always, Master, I'm proud of you. I'm watching you because I'm going through my health situations too. You don't know how much of an inspiration you are just growing up, all of that. Because I've known Norm since he was like almost 7 years old, bro.
Wow.
Here it is, he loses his life at 42 years old. That's a long time.
Yeah.
It needs to be around and know someone. So remembering imperfection, man, Norm Bates. I ask anybody listening to put your prayers and any meditation and great thoughts around his daughter because she lost both of her parents. She's a young lady too. So
yeah. That's a really nice segue for tonight's guest. Tonight we're fortunate enough to be joined by EMMA LEE M.C. Somebody that in my research, what I learned about her is that she's somebody who's very resilient. You're a curator of sorts, I would say. Also, you got your hand in a lot of different pots.
Yeah.
She's an octopus, bro.
A lot of contributions to this culture that we all know and love called hip hop. So we gonna run the gamut of questions. Go ahead, Rob.
You remember when Bruce Lee was about to do his magic and he was like this?
Yeah. Yeah, we gonna run you through the gambit of questions here on the podcast. You know, we'll take everything from hip hop to books. You know, but the first thing I want to start with asking you is, you know, I understand that you were born in Uganda, um, and you know, what was that like? How'd you end up finding yourself in the States?
Well, I didn't really have much of a choice fortunately, because my mother and my father were coming here. And my father wasn't even in Uganda at the time. He was in Italy studying and got a job opportunity, but was like, I'll take the job, but I have a wife and child and I want them to go to the States. And so fortunately, it all worked out for us to come. And literally Harlem, New York City was the first stop, like fresh off the plane, fresh. I was 2, a baby. And that's Harlem 1990. So for those who are familiar with like the post-crack era of Harlem and New York, it's
still a little sprinkle.
It's not as crazy as it was, but there's still traces, and then just the disarray of like, what's the community going to do now type of thing. And this is pre-gentrification also, even though that was already starting, as all the boroughs know. Brooklyn knows because y'all started it. The Bronx knows because it's happening now.
Bronx don't even look like the Bronx.
Listen. So yeah, it was kind of a destined thing because I'm the only one ever of my entire family, until recently with some new babies born, that was raised here. So I'm the American, even though everybody's over there, and everybody's over there or spread out around the world. So
he said, do you have siblings?
You have other siblings?
I now, for the first time, literally in the last couple years, because my father, he got remarried and they had a baby boy and a baby girl, literally last month. So I'm a big sister blood now for the first time ever. So that's cool.
Have you been back?
Not yet. And that's a huge, first of all, like, people don't do that. Like, especially everybody who has immigrant family knows that, like, you not going back is a problem. Like, you should have been back. I have a little bit of a grace because for the majority of my life, there was like war and political conflicts and civil things going on. So I couldn't go. And then I went, by the time I got into college, it was like, all right, well, now I'm in school. And then things were going left and right. So I had a little bit of a grace, but I had like a great grandmother who made transition at 106, and I never got to meet her. Wow. Both my grandfathers were killed when I was born, so I wasn't going to get to meet them. But still, it's like to be there. That disconnect, I've always felt it, to be honest. So it's definitely I know it's gonna change me when I do go back very soon, very, very soon.
Nice.
That's for sure. So now that you're in Harlem, how did you take in Harlem? You grew up in Harlem. What was Harlem like? Give me Harlem, because Harlem is a cultural place, bro.
Yeah, man. People don't realize like how many different cultures are in Harlem, especially with like Washington Heights being right next door. And for those who don't know, Washington Heights is like predominantly Dominican. There's Puerto Ricans and Ecuadorians, Cubans. It's all a mix. So what was it like taking it in? This is why that y'all like, how am I in so many different pots? Like, this is why, because from the beginning, it was so many things. I call it, I think I wrote in the book, it was like ghetto Disneyland for me, or like it was like, yo, what is this? Because then again, this is 1990, so there's still like a very palpable hip hop energy moving through everything still. So it's like there's graffiti going on, people blasting music out their cars, people still doing park jams, and there's dancing. And then it's not just hip hop, because it's like the elders who love to play jazz, like blast jazz, like blasting jazz music on a Saturday. And then bachata, merengue, salsa is playing.
Yeah, you're hearing all that. The Congos outside.
There's still the mom and pop stores that sell physical music. So you can still go in a store and look at albums and see posters. people are still. I caught the tail end of people still taping radio shows, like like the cassettes.
Yeah.
I caught the tail end of that, so that's still happening. Hot 97 is still hot. All these rest in peace, Mr. C, because that was one of my
definitely.
Yeah.
Oh my God, I loved his show so much. So it was ghetto Disney World for me, and I was loving it. I was loving it so much. I could tell it was. I'm naturally. It was a lot easier for me and more enjoyable for me, I think, than for my parents. I guess there's a lot more that you want to, I guess, shelter your child from, but also like there's only so much you can do because we're in the thick. There's so much happening, and we're in the thick. It wasn't like we didn't move to Westchester, respectfully. We was in Harlem. Like when Jay-Z talks about that McDonald's on 145th and Broadway, like we're right there, like thick of it.
Yeah, so, that's the thick of it for real.
Yeah, Riverside, Amsterdam, Broadway, like, and then my friends, all my activities, Lenox, 7th, East Harlem. I played football on 128th and 3rd. So it was fun and a lot of hard lessons. And I'm grateful though. I wouldn't want to be from anywhere else, honestly.
Nice.
Sounds like Harlem in its nutshell. It's taught you how to be multifaceted and multitasking.
Yes.
There's so much that goes on in Harlem between festivals and block parties, and there's so many different events that happen in Harlem. I know growing up for me, Harlem Week was one of the things my mother would always bring us down from the Bronx. It was like staple. We're going to Harlem Week. You learn something about your culture and a plethora of things. Like you said, you got it between Ecuadorian, Puerto Rican, Dominican, Portuguese, and you got Jamaican,
the Caribbean. You already know. So soca, calypso, reggae, dancehall, that's going on. Totally.
It's a total melting pot. So how'd you end up in Chico, California?
Whew, look at you with your research done. Nobody's ever asked me that.
Okay.
How did I end up in Chico, California? How can I tell this story without
be yourself, baby. Be yourself.
because Chico happened. So my parents got divorced. And long story short, my mother decided I'm not East Coast, I'm West Coast. And she went to And around that same time, I was about 14, 15. Yeah, about 15. And I still didn't have a social security number. I was still like, because anyway, I still didn't have my, I was legal. I was legal, y'all, but I didn't have
the credentials you needed to push forward.
Yeah. So resident alien, that's what they call you. Which is weird. Anyway, so my mother, for some reason, was able to facilitate that paperwork for me, and my father could not. So I went over there. It was supposed to be like a 3-week thing. And then I guess because whatever's going on the back end of the government, like the process was just taking a long time. And it was taking so long that like they had to put me in a school like in California. So I had to get like inside the California public school system, which is completely different. Even though that was kind of eye-opening, because for y'all that don't know, in New York, most of the public schools and the public high schools, we're in buildings that are built like penitentiary buildings. There's no windows on most of the floors. We don't have campuses, staircases and metal detectors, and that's our school experience. In Cali, in public school, as soon as I stepped foot on what was the campus of the public school, somebody greeted me and gave me a piece of paper, and I was like, "Yo, what's this?" And it was like, "This is the map of." You mean a map? Yeah, this is a map. And they say, "Yeah, see, here we are in the first quadrant. There's 4 right there. The football field is over here. The weight room is open." And I was like, "Yo, this is public school." So lawns and air and all types of stuff. So it was like, whoa. But yeah, so I was out there really to get my life together for the paperwork. But I ended up starting school there, ended up joining a boxing gym.
Oh wow.
Because I was wilding out. I was miserable. So I ended up in a juvenile delinquent program, and they told me I could do community service, but they had a boxing gym on the list of community service. And I thought that was a mistake. So I was like, yo, let me sign up before they realize that they have this on here, because that was like a gift for me. And then so I joined that, and then eventually was able to start training there. And the owner was a Puerto Rican from Brooklyn, New York. So
we're everywhere.
You said you were miserable. You were miserable. Why? Because of moving from New York to California, or the separation of your parents? Like, would you attribute that misery to?
Both, and I was already miserable, like in life. I was already depressed. Yeah. I was already by that time, full disclosure, by that time I had already been raped and molested multiple times. I had already lost multiple people in my life. I was having a hard withdrawal, being the only child, and the entire family is in a different continent. No other family.
Yeah, that's tough.
Friends and stuff, but still, like I'm a pretty private person, so I wasn't like confiding in people all the time and like feeling that support. I was already playing sports in a lot of male-dominated spaces, so I'm also going through a thing of like being a girl trying to play football and all those things that comes up with that, and being in New York, walking the streets and dodging this and dodging that, and just the constant tension. You know, so I was just already kind of like soured on life and just kind of feeling like everything sucks. Like everything, it's wrong. Everything's wrong.
Wow.
I get it.
Sorry to hear that.
So, Callie, the training that taught you, what did that bring out of you? The training.
Oh my God, first of all, I couldn't train when I first got there because I was in the juvenile delinquent program, and the whole thing was like, you fucked up. So get the mop, get the broom. Yeah. So at first it was kind of like torturous, because I'm like watching. They had a couple girls in there. Actually, I had one who's now like a 7-time world champion. She's awesome. Her name is Ava Knight Salika, and she trained there. And they'd have like a whole team for her, and she'd be getting ready to go to Las Vegas to fight. And it's amazing to just watch her be in the zone, like as a young teenager, and also like have a grace about her and just be so purpose and driven, and like, and have people around her who were supporting her in that. So it was kind of torturous. Like, wow, I want to hit a heavy bag, you know, like I want to
have some aggression, right?
Yeah. But eventually, like I said, well, I better sweep the hell out of this gym, and so I can move up to fries, you know. So I did, and then they let me start training, and then it was like, at first it was just like an hour here, maybe another hour there, and then it was like 3 hours, 4 hours, 5 extra hours in the gym, just training from this thing to that thing, getting really tight on the speed bag, getting really tight on the heavy bag. And then eventually the owner started doing one-on-one with me. Like he put on the mitts and like go with me, and then started to do this and that. And that was just like, it felt electric, honestly. It felt like, wow, look at what my body can do, look what my brain can do. And then because boxing is so, it's you versus you, you know, like, I had come from playing tackle football before I left, and you're so dependent on the team and where the team's head is at, and each role player is doing their job, and we have to execute this play as a team. But in boxing, every single thing is you. How you're breathing, what your arms are doing, what your legs are doing, or how you're processing where you're at in the match. And so that was like, you don't have time to be depressed when you have that going on. And then also, like, my body was transforming like it had never transformed before. I had never seen my body like the way it was when I was
boxing. Guns, huh? You was getting them guns.
Always had the guns. Come on now. But the cuts and my calves were like diamonds. Oh, yeah. Yes, diamonds. Yeah. It was just amazing. I didn't even realize because I was so in the zone and then I also I was one of those girls who just didn't look in the mirror also because that was another reason why I was miserable is I hated the way I looked and how different and my dark skin and everything. And then one day I just looked at myself and I looked like a superhero and I was like, whoa. Nice. Whoa. So yeah, boxing and Chico, California definitely changed my life for the better.
Nice. Hey, y'all.
What's all the different things you got going on? The boxing, you transition, you moved, how did you end up getting into music and theater and stuff like that? How did you transition from that to music and theater?
Yeah, I actually was already in it, and that was actually it took me away. That was another reason why I was miserable because when I was already singing and dancing in single digits, and I started rapping in 5th grade. So that's, what is that? That's 10, 11?
Yeah, 10.
11, 12, something like
about
that.
10, 11, yeah. And so I was already doing that. But then at 12 years old, 12 years young, actually, I should say, I joined a performing arts group and leadership training program based out of Harlem called Impact Repertory Theater. Right. And this program was founded by Black arts movement activists and Black Panthers from the New York chapter of the Black Panthers.
Right.
And so we would get together every Saturday, like a long 7-hour day every Saturday, and we would rehearse and do workshops and vocal training and dance and acting and public speaking, and then global awareness and self-development and community service. And so we did that, but then it was also an actual show, a traveling show, where you would see soloists in front with the mics where they're singing and dancing. You have a whole 2 choral groups singing background vocals, dancers in the middle. Then we have spoken word poetry. People would rap. We had people who did, we did martial arts too, because from the Black Panther, that was one of the things we had to learn, self-defense.
Yeah.
So there were people who were mixing self-defense movements with the spoken word. So it was literally everything in the performing arts, powered by our own writing about our own lives and growing up in New York and being young people and what we were seeing in the world, and then what the elder staff was writing as well. And I was doing that from 12 to 24.
Wow.
It was my life. Yeah, it was 50, at least 50 shows a year. So 7-hour rehearsal every week, a show at least 1 show a week, maybe a midweek rehearsal. And then I was rising up in the ranks to become a company captain. So you're also dealing with staff meetings. You're running the program. You're setting up lunch because we did, again, Black Panthers. So free lunch, free breakfast. So you're setting up lunches and breakfast. You're helping to manage the kids and talking to parents and rehearsing and teaching. And every time people audition, they go through a boot camp. So we're also running each boot camp as young people. It's like an each one reach one type of thing. Okay. So I was always in it, and I was in a couple choirs, gospel choirs as well. So I was always in groups doing music, and then in cyphers. Always loved hip hop. And then it wasn't until really recently, right when the pandemic hit, that I even started doing stuff as a solo artist. So
really,
I'm still new, even though.
Really? Hold on, son. Really?
I want to go back for a second because you were talking about, you were saying the piece about having all your family on a whole other continent. So what did you do, I guess, with your parents? I would imagine maybe for you it may be a little bit easier to assimilate if going to school, you're out in the community, you're interacting with younger folks, but how important was it to your parents to assimilate? And, what kind of things did you do that were customs or traditions that they, that you did to kind of make sure you kept that going while in the States?
Yeah, it's an interesting question. It's something that's kind of still ongoing because my father has come, we're able to be here because of my father's accomplishments in education. Mm-hmm. So he's always going to have a respect for traditional education. once I finished, I was a high school dropout and then a trade school dropout before becoming like, I ended up graduating and like
college grad, right?
Yeah, I did go to college and end up I majored in political science, and then I had 2 minors, one in dance and one in arts and entertainment management.
Okay.
So, but like by the time I talk about this in the book too, by the time I was like halfway in and had picked the major and was going towards all these degrees and awards and stuff, I was like very unimpressed with traditional education. I was very unimpressed. I had already had, like I said, I was already in that group. We're doing all these shows. I'm seeing different audiences and meeting different people everywhere we go. I'm part of the technical supportive theater and the running of the program. I've been an entrepreneur. I'm watching, we're from Harlem, so I'm seeing people.
Yeah.
I'm seeing entrepreneurs in real time. There's Little Senegal, there's 125th Street. I'm seeing the changes. We're taught to be politically aware. So I have an idea, I have a perspective about like self-community, the world, and the world community self. So I'm like, what they're trying to give me in the classroom is like this. And what I've already seen, what is here for me that I can create and what I can give to myself is like this. So this degree, like, what are we really talking about? But again, you're telling this to an immigrant educator who made it possible for you to be here.
That's a tough sell. That's a tough sell.
And then he's like, to get back to your question, I admire him a lot because I don't know how he does it. And everybody who has immigrant family, y'all know, like even people like who have family from the South and the Midwest, like his accent has never gone anywhere. Like it is there. I don't even know how he does it, but it is there, through thick and thin. And then again, being of the deep melanin tone, we're not passing for nothing. Like if we're in the room, you know we're in the room. You know what I'm saying? Right. So it's an ongoing thing. And then when I was in school, the university I went to was a predominantly white institution, the one I transferred into. And not to say there's racism everywhere, but there was definitely a lot of racism going through there. And I experienced like firsthand stuff, like where like I could tell you firsthand something happened because I was because of my skin. It was all good on the phone. And then when I showed up in person, it was not all good. It was not all good.
Now, let me ask you this. Was there awareness around it, or was it something that was just systemic?
Totally systemic. Systemic. And then to make that even like multidimensional, while I'm going through that, and I'm like, damn, I'm just trying to get this piece of paper so I don't waste the opportunity of what my father did for me to get here. He's going through it as a staff person, as being one of the only Black professors in the business school and in the entire university. So he's going through it, and there was like something really, really, really bad that happened that like actually like really damaged our family for a long time. And if he knew, like if he wanted to press charges, he could have, but he decided not to. So it was like, it made everything very bittersweet of like, I don't even want to assimilate to what going on here. You know what I mean? It's crazy because y'all don't know what you have. Like y'all don't know what you have in us being here and what we could do to elevate this community and this network of people. But since y'all want to be like that, all right, we'll just take what we're here to get and keep it moving.
It seems like American culture. It taught y'all something, man, because that's American culture right there. It'll pull you through the ringer before you get to understand what it is that you're going through. And thank God for Impact Repertory Theater.
Yes.
To show you what you're dealing with firsthand every day, from the political awareness, community organizing, all the things that y'all got doing, the theater, being able to express yourself. That's Harlem. That's New York. Really. Yes. I mean, that's us as Black people.
Yes.
I mean, they're very expressive.
It seemed like you had like a lot of outlets through the theater, through boxing and different things. It helps you get through a lot of different adversity that you faced. So it was good that you had those outlets to seem to help you navigate that. Even though I'm sure it's always harsh or something when things become reality, and basically with him, you witness it firsthand. Everything is fine when you hear the stories until you actually
What
live in.
happens to you, yeah. And you know, it's I think sometimes people get this rosy idea of like, oh well, you're in New York and of course there's opportunities everywhere, whatever. But it there's so many people with opportunities all around them that never take them. Their lives have the opportunity to change. They have the opportunity to make certain choices in their life and they never make them.
Yeah.
So I do also want to say that like I looked for these outlets. Like everything I did from football, boxing, even Impact, making the auditions, preparing myself to go through that, completing boot camp, then graduating, being in the program, and wanting to rise in the ranks. Figuring out what I'm gonna do after I dropped out of school, and then knowing that college wasn't for me, but deciding to finish anyway and to continue with the plan and to always have what I wanted to do, et cetera, et cetera. I reached for all these things. These things it wasn't my parents telling me, this is what you're going to do. It wasn't a manual. It wasn't like people saying, hey, come and do this. And the full circle back to a question.
Right.
I just want to make sure I'm answering y'all questions too. I just want to say that like, I got into all these things, so many things, for the purpose of I was miserable and I didn't know it at the time, but I was suicidal as a youth. And I was deciding there has to be something here, or through the prayers and my connection, like my spiritual relationship, there has to be something here that I'm here for, because there's no, like, all this miserableness just makes no sense. Like, please show me something. It has to be somewhere. So it's like, okay, is it here? Is it in boxing? Is it in my physical body? Is it musical? Is it creative? Is it with poetry? Is it just keep showing me things to live for, because I'm running out of reasons to want to live. And that's what got me into all these things. And to be honest, it keeps me going every day.
Yeah, I like what you were saying about just now when you were saying that sometimes people lose sight of what immigrants have to contribute, right? And I'm just thinking about like everything that we have going on in the world now, and sort of like the xenophobia that's surrounding like migrants, you know. And certainly your journey here is a different set of circumstances from their journey here, but I think we've become sort of like as U.S. citizens, we've become accustomed to putting like I guess almost like framing migrants coming here as a bad thing, when this is a country that's been built on migrants coming here, and they, you know, clearly they come here for a reason. So if people could just kind of step back and frame it from the way that you're saying, like, what about the contribution that other people have to actually deliver or give to this country, then I think that would create a shift in the narrative around what we're seeing, because it's just I hear a lot of hate and a lot of real toxic rhetoric about people. And then I'm the kind of person that I read the newspapers regularly. You know, I watch the news. Not all of it is the truth, but I definitely see the narrative that's being painted by you know, as it relates to people that come to this country, whether they come documented or undocumented. To kind of shift gears a little bit, I just wanted to ask you about this. You know, what inspires you to create, and how important is it to be a creative?
What inspires me to create? Is it corny to say the answer is in the question? Inspiration is the fuel of creation. And I'm a firm believer that inspiration is everywhere. Everywhere.
Yeah.
The more you learn about yourself, the more you, even if you don't believe in God or a higher power, a higher entity, the more you get into a clarity of your own mind and your own presence.
Right.
I promise that you become like an antenna for it, and it will come to you multiple times a day, every day. You'll have to have a notepad or your notes app on the phone, or you'll just have like I remember Kanye used to say, like, what was that line? I forgot better shit than you ever thought of, or something. That will start happening. Like, I am very open to inspiration, and I think also because I study my inspirations a lot, and the people that I recognize as, and not even just people, because even when you watch like animals, I have a big love of like orca whales and large cats, panthers, naturally, right? Black panthers. Like, why they wanted to name themselves after this animal? Let me watch this animal. But when you even like drummers, when drummers are drumming, like there's something about being in the pocket of life. And I talk about that in the book too. Like there are so many nouns, people, places, and things that are just in the pocket with something in life. And it's fascinating to watch them. It's everywhere in comedy, when when comedians are in that groove, musicians, animals, even babies start doing stuff, and it's just like wow. And there's so many now. It's very normal for like viral videos to go by of like babies doing amazing things. But it's just like that's that thing about life that I just I find it so amazing, and it inspires me that it must be true that anything is possible, because there are too many like one-off miracle
situation, right?
That just happened.
That can happen. So I was just thinking about that today. I was like, they say in math that randomness or like chaos is a pattern. So like, yeah, things do just happen. Big bangs do happen, sure. But when you think of like just the human brain alone, what it does and the things that it's set up to do and the way it's designed, and then every animal on earth has a brain unique to it to make it do what it does. And then the water moves a certain way in every area of the earth. The trees know when to grow and drop leaves and grow them back. No matter how bad humans get, fruit keeps growing out the trees. Vegetables keep coming out the ground, like no matter what we do, with a few exceptions. But you feel what I'm saying? Like there's too much happening that is very divinely designed,
Right?
To not be inspired of like whatever they're trying to tell me about the world, and that I'm this small and I don't matter and everything is all bad and everybody's broke and will always be broke. I'm like, there's too many examples of anomalies and disruptions and exceptions and rules being broken and new rules being created that I could just accept the suggestion of a negative. So
yeah,
that's wonderful. You got an outlook like that, because most people don't look at inspiration in that way, because there is inspiration in everything.
Everywhere. Business school is everywhere. When you look around,
you can just look at nature. If you pay attention to trees and grass and the sun and the wind. You mentioned water. The job that water does is about 80% of our body, as well as it is how it covers the planet and what it does. Water is life.
yes.
So if you take the instance of water and you apply it to yourself, well, you can become anything, because I go back to Bruce Lee. Bruce Lee said, if you become water,
like water. Like water.
Too. That was one of my inspirations too. I studied him a lot too.
So I noticed that your book is nonfiction. So that means in your book there are a lot of true tale experiences.
Everything, the whole thing. Don't short me, son. It's nonfiction, 100% true, every single part. And it's like
that's dope. It's not because you want to connect with the reader in a way to be unfiltered, transparent, because a lot of people don't have a voice. And when you're reading, it's good to read and kind of take in like, oh, someone is feeling that or been through that just like me, which engages you to continue to read. So that to me is dope. That for the book to be nonfiction.
I certainly prayed on that, because I think also people take for granted like, oh well, Emma's, for people who know me, or just like maybe look on Instagram and see like, oh man, she does all these things. It seems like it's so easy for her. Yeah, to sit and write a book about suicide prevention and mental health, and like me going through that, and like detailing the day of the night of my suicide attempt, and then like being in the psych ward after that and navigating that, and then coming home from the psych ward, and now I have to figure out the rest of my life.
Yeah.
Is now like that was not easy. And then facing again the the sexual violence that happened to me, it was crazy because when I was writing the hardest chapter, that was one of the hardest chapters I had to write. And while I was writing that, I realized that I had buried so much. So stuff was coming up as I was writing that I didn't even realize that I had totally blocked out. So I was like, I had to like, there's a lot in popular now about like healing with your inner child. It's like I had to apologize to myself because like my inner child had gone through a lot of adult things and took for granted how fast she had to grow up and how I was like, we just got to keep it moving. We just got to keep it moving. We just got to keep it moving. Which I feel like not everybody, but I feel like a lot of people go through that even today, just in general. We're always pushing ourselves because, like you said, well, this Con Ed got to get paid and we got to get some food in the fridge. And for those who have kids and families, well, the wife needs this and the children need that. But it was not easy to write. And I prayed a lot about, God, I'm a private person. I don't be telling people my business. I'm fitting to put this out because you're calling me to. And I'm going to trust that I'm laying it out because somebody needs to hear it or read it or see it, especially from someone like me. And the hip hop part of like, this is one of the most powerful energies. Talk about inspiration. This is one of the most powerful energies that's ever existed, like in human life so far, hip hop. I think a lot of people take that for granted.
That's a fact. Yeah. Thank you for your courage. Thank you for your courage. Courage to write it, because your story alone is, if it could reach only one person, you've done justice. But just having the courage to do it that's amazing. Go ahead, Ken. I'm sorry.
Yeah, and like with writing the book, basically, you basically reopened all the wounds. You basically had a lot of feelings and different things you suppressed for the sake of moving forward. And then you just basically rewrote it and relived everything in that moment. So that's definitely something that took a lot of strength to do. Or something. I mean, speaking about like the different things, like you're talking about how it transitioned into music and rap, I went back and I looked at a lot of different things you did, and like a lot of the covers and all the different type of stuff. And tell us about some of those, because I listen. I like watching the 10 Commandments one and the Jay-Z covers. Tell us about some of the covers you did.
Oh man, I love those pieces. They helped me definitely open up my creativity, and they also were the extensions of me also moving from just being an artist with the mic and being talent in front of the camera to being a behind the scenes person and learning audio engineering. Shout out to Fred Ones. And MC1, as well as video editing and videography and, all the things behind the camera that it takes to put together the No Ideas original show and all those things, people don't realize. And that's also great for our community because there are so many jobs that are created so that what we see on a daily basis can exist. And the more you, when you do get to work with people who look like you, I was just watching the Issa Rae interview. I'm gonna come back to the question, sorry. But she was talking about how, when you do get to work with people who look like you and then you start doing other things and getting deeper into the industry, you realize like how rare that is. And I've been fortunate to continue meeting people of color as I continue in media and production, but it's still like there are so many roles and places and networks where we're not yet. And I'm happy to see that that's changing, but there's still a lot where to go. And that's something I'm definitely going to keep in mind as I continue to elevate and whatever success I have. I always have that feeling, also tagging to something you said earlier of like, because I was kind of adopted by the revolutionary community and the Black Panthers, I also like kind of not forgot I was an immigrant, but it was kind of like it didn't matter, you know, it wasn't like a separation, you know, it was like
wasn't a stigma.
Yeah, it was like black people, Black and brown people are all over the world having the same experience. We're just in different places, and have, you know, varying histories and departures and arrivals, but we're kind of like the same people. And you get that too, like we often grow up the same kind of way, our foods are kind of the same way, the way we cook things is kind of the same way, the way the music happens is kind of the same. What was so the covers, wow, I took that way off, sorry, the covers. Oh man, yeah, so the covers, so I'm like I want to rap on beats that move me, because full disclosure, I can't afford, this is me thinking at the time, this is my thought process, I can't afford beats right now. And the YouTube producers, and if you're one of them out there, yeah, I'm talking to you, or maybe I'm not, and it's just your community. But these YouTube producers is going, they're wilding out. They're not doing business the way it should be done.
Right. Talk about that. Right. Let them know, baby.
I don't like what y'all doing, so I'm not finna put my money there. The BeatStars thing wasn't in full swing yet, but even there, again, like I don't want to pay for a beat and then 20 other people got the beat. Like, what's really going on?
The beat lease program, yeah, you don't mess with that.
Shout out to Baby Paul talking about that. Niggas putting out $5 beats.
Yes, BP. That's my
people got it.
But yeah, so I'm like, I can't afford the beats I really want. I'm a music head, so I also really want to work with musicians and like put together music the way I'm hearing it in my head. But you got to pay musicians, and I'm one of those people. I want to pay the people I work with. Like, I want everybody to be good. So rather than be cheap and just scrape things together, I'd rather just wait to have the budget to do it right. That's my attitude. So I was like, but I gotta rap. I gotta do something out here. So why don't I rap on beats that move me that I can just grab off the internet? And at the time, copyrights weren't as big of an issue, but also depending on the platform and how you swing it, you can kind of get around that. So yeah, the Jay-Z, I think Bink did that. The You, Me, Him, Her beat, that was always, a lot of those was like,
I love that beat.
Yeah. I still haven't done this. Actually, you just reminded me. Mobb Deep, The Learning, which was,
I love that beat too.
One of the go-tos.
I like the one you did, the Mad Lib Freddie Gibbs beat.
Oh yeah, the Palm Olive joint. Yeah, with the red. Oh, that was all. That set the candle thing off, because
that was dope.
When I was at Sublime Crown Productions, we had a green screen room. The whole room was green screen, and even the table was green. So I started messing around with the chroma key and with VFX and composite stuff. That's like for the editing nerds out there. That's like technical stuff with the video editing. So now I can kind of be anywhere, and I could be on a farm, I could be in space. But for me, it was like, let's mess with the colors first. So it was like, wow, I can be in a red room and have a red candle, and then I could be in a blue room and have a blue candle. So that got me hyped. So yeah, did that. Ghostface Killer, not Nutmeg. That's one of my favorite songs of all time, though. The Malcolm X that You, the Specialist, did. I covered Hip Hop Decoded by the Black Dot. I did.
I asked you about that. I was going to ask you about that.
Oh, yeah? Yeah. Oh, but
real hip hop historian, I see.
Yeah.
Is she?
love hip hop so much, and all types of hip. Like I said, I'm a music head. Like it always also the way the Panthers raised us is like you as a young person, like never let age be an excuse for you. That's how we were raised. Because we were charged with, we got to go out and not just be performers and professional talents, but we have to be ambassadors and representatives of this program. Nice. So we had that on our shoulders, but then also it's like you have to have an idea about yourself in the world, and you have to speak to media and press, and you have to explain the program to other young people that may want to join or that you want to recruit. So I always had that. But then also I see like a lot of people in all types of ages do that. Like people use age as an elder excuse, and like why they don't change or want to do things, or and I get it because everybody's grown and you make your decisions when you're grown. But I'm like, people don't understand also that starts to play into when we're talking about health and wellness. Like if you keep telling yourself you're old and beat up, your body's listening to that, like, and it's agreeing with that on a subconscious level. So like on the one hand, I always have the like we were told like, don't, if somebody calls you cute, you take it, you say thank you, but you don't take that. You're not cute. You're not here to be cute. You're here to give a show. You're here to be give an amazing performance. You're here to move people. MC means move the crowd. That's what you know what I'm saying? You're here to be most creative. You're here to mujer champion. You see what I'm saying? So on the one hand, it's like I'm never gonna be like, because I'm young, I can't know who Stevie Wonder is and like be into his catalog. Like you're not, if you love music and you haven't heard Stevie Wonder's catalog, like you are going to
doing yourself a disservice.
It's a huge disservice. But it's like when people try to say like, oh, young people don't know nothing about XYZ, it's like because of this time. It's like, okay, well, was I alive when Stevie Wonder was like popping number ones? No. So I should know about Stevie. Exactly. So is you do your homework. It's like, and hip hop helped me do that too. Cause like once you start tracing samples, you already know. Once you start tracing samples, your mind opens up and you start finding the tree just never stops from there. So there's that. And then, oh damn, I just lost my train of thought.
I was gonna ask you though, like in terms of, because you are so you're this great MC and an author. What's the writing process look like for being an MC versus being an author, or is it the same?
No, it's not.
You had to go there.
Next on that one. It is not the same, brother. It is not the same. That book, I have such a respect now, a way more respect. I always respected authors, but I have way more respect now for people who write books. It is not for the faint of heart. And I was just telling somebody who's her handle on Instagram is Cycle Breaker Coach. She's awesome. But she's in the process of writing her book, her first book. And I was telling her, somebody said, make sure you love your book because you're going to read it again 75 more times. And I was like, it is so true. Like you're going to read it over and over and over again. The editing process, I know people hear that a lot in like English class, like writing is rewriting or whatever. The editing process is a whole other thing. So even though fortunately, like when I songwrite and like write rhymes, I had a big like inspiration for the whole book that came to me and that I mapped out and blueprinted, and that I pulled pieces together. So when it came time to like, okay, now it's just writing, I had like pieces and an outline and a blueprint, and I just had to face like the demons of getting the hard stuff out, and making it make sense to somebody out who was not in my brain. But when I'm writing rhymes, I think it's a little lighter because I think you're less concerned. I was going to say, I think you're a little less concerned with the audience receiving the bars, but that's not all the way true too, because like I'm heavily influenced also by battle rap, and everybody who watches battle rap knows like moving the crowd there is a huge part of winning.
What you say?
The delivery and what you say,
right?
It can't just be you feeling it. Like other people have to feel it. That's part of the whole thing. So, but I feel like it's a little lighter because, well, one, you're rhyming, you're doing rhyme schemes, so there's a little bit of fun in that and a little bit more playfulness with language that I think is spread out, is more spread out when you're writing the book. You have a playfulness, but it's more spread out because you have to do like sentences and paragraphs and like weave a story. Yeah, but in a bar, I gotta do that in 16. And then the way because I said I study my inspiration, I'm wearing a Wu-Tang shirt right now. The way I was raised in hip hop. Jizza is one of my favorite Wu-Tang members, and Jizza said, "Kill him in 4 bars, and if you could do it in 2, do it in 2." And I took that very personally, very personally. So now it's like, how can I concentrate a chapter's worth of information and poetry and wit in 2 bars, and do that 8 more times? So that's one of the differences.
What you say? Cognition rules everything around.
Ooh, I like that.
So for you, because your publisher is Wahida Clark, right? She's somebody has an amazing story, also of resilient, and I admire her as well. How'd you end up linking up with her?
Yes, shout out to Wahida Clark's Innovative Publishing, Nuance Art, who did the beautiful cover art. Isn't that fly, y'all?
Yeah, I love that cover.
And Maisha Hendricks, shout out. That's my publicist and one of my big sisters. So for a long time, Wahida's publicist was Maisha. And Maisha and I met because when I was still running one of the studios I was working out of in Brooklyn, the Sublime Crown Productions, she had artists coming to do this public access television show that we used to run. So that's where I met her. And then I was just on the precipice of becoming a solo artist, and I started inquiring about having some kind of representation somehow. And so when I met her, I found that Wahida was one of her clients already and was in the midst of trying to match artists' songs to some of her books. And that's where we first met, because Wahida learned of me through Maisha and then was just like, does she have any songs that we can use? And it's crazy because at the time I had 0 songs out, like none. It was a couple years ago, guys. I'm still brand new. I've never done this before. I'm just fresh out here. Green as a dollar.
You in good hands though.
Very good hands. So, but that's how we met, is we were under the same PR umbrella, and she had heard what I did do though. And what I did have, and this is for anybody who's a artist aspiring or up and coming out there. Even though I couldn't get in the studio and have finished master tracks, even though I didn't have things out, what I did have was reference tracks, like a vault of reference tracks, things of songs fully realized, hooks, verses, ad libs, background vocals, everything laid out already. It just wasn't done like in a studio and mixed and mastered. I had these reference tracks, so I sent her like 3-4 things to match some of the books she had, and she loved every single one. She's like, give me this. I had to tell her, like, these are not songs, like these are not I don't want you to put something out that's not, but they sound so good. Thank you so much. I wanted it to be like that, but yeah,
they were imagined, and that was enough. You imagined them, and now it was only a matter of you actualizing them.
Yes. And you have to make sure, well, you don't have to, you can do whatever you want. But to me, also coming up, I guess, also with all that experience being in the industry already, it's like, and then being in gospel choirs, I was in an a cappella choir when I was in Chico, California as well. So being able to find a note, hold a note, and change the note is like really important to me. Like harmonies and melody, and it sounds so like, because I know Erykah Badu has that quote. My shit ain't based on notes, no way. And it's like, yes, but you know how to be in key, you know how to sing in key, you know how you're a musical person.
Yeah.
That's important, you know, because it does have to be listenable, and there has to be a listening experience along with your music. Some people just get on the track and it's just they're just rapping.
I'm glad you said that.
Yeah,
You gotta want to hear it. You gotta want to hear it.
Or some people just have like every song sounds the same. Every song sounds the same. And it's like there's something special about musicality in a person. And so that was important to me. Even it's like, okay, I don't have musicians, I can't pay for beats, I'm not in the studio, or I'm working in the studio, so I can get some studio time. But if it's my iPad, if it's the phone, if it's a recorder, if it's a computer, whatever it is, let me just lay down vocals that are in key and on pitch, and I have a clear idea and have arrangements and be able to use my ear and develop my listening ear, so that when somebody does hear it, or I do get the musician, I can say, yes, this is the way that the piano should sound, and this is what this is, and you know that makes a difference.
Because as long as you're on beat and on pitch and stuff like that, anybody can match a beat with a certain tempo to it. Because you're consistent in the way you did it. It's not all over the place and stuff. So it comes down to, like you said, it actually makes it better for you to be able to formulate things around it.
Yes.
Yeah. That makes a lot of sense, and I 100% agree with you. If it sounds like crap, I don't want to hear it.
Yeah, sorry, not sorry, but like we should be done coddling these.
Talk.
Listen, and you know we've been in a time where the music field is so saturated. Everybody raps. Everybody sings. Everybody's dropping this, and everybody's dropping a album, a mixtape, an EP every month, and that's fine. But to have a listening experience, for us to the reason why we play the songs that we play, everybody has their things that they love to play, to drive, to walk, when they're in the shower, their go-to when they work out. The things that we love to listen to, like pay attention to why we love to listen to those things. What's happening in the music, in the production itself? What's going on with the tone of voice, with the delivery of the words, with the way the voices are arranged, with the silences, with the things that are taken away, so that there's room for what's really good about the songs. Beat selection for those who are like, I'm just gonna rap to what's hot. But some people are truly talented and they choose the worst. Sorry, I don't mean
not apologize.
No, don't apologize. Everything you're saying is factual.
Because I haven't just been, like I said, I wasn't just a rapper all these years. I was like in the studio working, like as an assistant engineer, or as the studio manager, as the booker. And then I was also like in the ciphers at the hip hop events, that I was one of the 1 or 2 or 3 girls at said events, with everybody getting on stage to do their rapidy raps. And I've heard y'all. I've been listening. I was paying attention the whole time. And some people need to just go back to the drawing board and chill the fuck out, because it's not happening. It's just
you know what it is though. I think when you're a student of music and you understand like the different technical aspects of it, like there are some people that just listen to music, which to me is not a bad thing. I say it all the time on this program. Music to me is about feel. But then there are certain people that they listen to music, and I think there are people that listen to music, right? Like some people have an ear, and like you saying, like, you know, like they understand cadence, they understand tone, they understand, you know, the pause, they understand arrangement, sequencing, they understand those different things. There are other people that just listen and be like, this song makes me feel good, and that's it for them.
Because even we feel like you don't have to be, I'm not saying everybody has to be a certain type of artist, because that's part of the beauty of like why hip hop is so great, and like why we have these like renaissances of all these genres of music, is when we have variety. But even like I was reading an article, shout out to Pharoah Monch, who did write the foreword for the book. I really say that a lot more often.
I love a lyricist.
Wrote the book. Pharoah Monch wrote the foreword for the book, and so beautiful, because he's another one of my inspirations. Like if hip hop was
my inspiration too, I love him.
Just as a person, as an artist, as a professional creative, he's just top tier. He just checks so many boxes. If hip hop was a tree, I am off the branch of Pharaoh Monch, Bahamadia. Like I'm one of he's one of those branches. So is a deep respect for me. But I read an article that interview that he did from years back, and they were asking him about like how he feels about mumble rap and stuff, and he made a great point about like how he was loving this is a while back, because he said he was loving Designer's new song. And I don't know, for those of y'all who remember Designer, a lot of people was hating on that record.
It was entertaining.
It killed the charts, but a lot of people was hating on that record, of course, because there's the purist argument. But he was like, yo, I really love what Designer did on that record. Like he hit again the pocket. He hit a pocket.
Yeah, he definitely was. He was.
But it's interesting because in that same interview, he said, Pharaoh Monch said when Organized Confusion is the group that he came out of in the night. I don't remember when they first came out, but
they were in the 90s.
Okay, yeah. 90s. But he said when Organized Confusion was out, Heads was telling him that hip hop was being ruined back then because of rappers like him. Because the shift had happened from we had we had Sugar Hill Gang. I'm truncating the history, but like Sugar Hill Gang, Fat Boys, Run DMC.
Right.
Then we have Rakim and everything. Not to say he's the only one, but Rakim, Cool G Rap, Big Daddy Kane. We had a change in the way lyricism was approached and the way things were broken down. And now people are listening for different special ed. You know, we're having 3 verses a song where the hook is not even the most important part. We're not even here for the hook, really. The hook is the breather. We want to hear what you're saying in the verses. So people were saying that Organized Confusion was like ruining hip hop because it was so much about the lyrics and the wordplay and the technical things with the cadences. It wasn't like the party essence of hip hop was gone. The love was gone. It was just like English class rap. Yeah. So there's always going to be something that's too much this or too much that for someone subjectively. But one thing that will always be the point is that in the pocket thing and that musicality thing, and you don't have to have it through a classroom, through a mentor, you don't have to have it formally, but just like you said, feel. Listening experience is important, and that can be anything, but it's a two-way street. It's not I'm an artist and this is what I do for myself and you're gonna listen to it because it's what I'm expressing. There's a human connection about it.
Right. Yeah. Well, we just in our last episode we had Pretty Bully on. She's an MC out of Buffalo, and we had her producer on. And one of the questions I asked her was, you know, do you make music for yourself or do you make music for consumers? You know, and she said, she was like, you know, there's been a shift that when she first started out, she was making music for herself, but then she shifted to making music for the audience, and she attributed to growth in the ability to be vulnerable. You know, but I do think that there are a lot of artists that not that they're not talented artists, but get stuck making music for themselves, you know. And once you start getting stuck making music for yourself, you know, then it becomes sort of like you're one-dimensional. You know, you start making the same song over and over again. You know,
interesting. Go ahead, sorry.
Yeah, and I was thinking about what you were saying about like beat selection. I think that one of the biggest criticisms of Nas for many years was his beat selection. You know, like nobody ever had any critique in his lyricism, but it was his beat selection. And now, you know, he's getting with with Hit Boy, put out all those projects. Now he got the record with Premier, and he's starting to kind of step out and deal with you know, like other producers and take risks, you know. And I attribute that a lot to like people's musical growth, also the ability to take risks. And in risks, sometimes you're gonna have stuff that hits, sometimes you're gonna have stuff that doesn't necessarily hit. But to me, all the great artists are artists that are willing to take risks.
Good point.
I think what happens a lot now is like a lot of times just from a studio atmosphere, and you can speak to this because you work there. People go to a studio, they bring their friends or something. People are never really critical of their friends. Everybody thinks they want to hear it was the greatest. Their friends are touting them as the greatest rappers ever, and it's all a bunch of crap. So you in a studio with a bunch of yes men that basically there for a party and they disagreeing with you.
Yes.
And now fast forward to now, it could be even worse because now half these people that make music never even been in a studio.
Right.
They're sitting in a living room telling each other that they're the greatest and texting and Twitter fingering, emailing each other and everything about how great they are. So there's really no like feedback around anything. If you go in a studio, an environment where it's you and an engineer and stuff, they will let you know that they don't sound. I've been in a studio where an engineer just stopped the music and you think you're doing well. Stop. Yeah, you need to do that over. Stop. You need to do that over. But now everything a person does, I guess it's part of people's psyche. They believe that everything they do is the greatest.
It's trendy. It's trendy to tell yourself that because everyone's telling themselves that. So let me big myself up.
Yeah.
You're bigging yourself up. And, you know, and that's what's missing because that was one of the original tenets of hip hop is originality. It had to be original. I mean, in the 90s, there were about 30 million groups. Nobody sounded alike.
Yeah.
Including Organized Confusion. No one sounded like OC. No one sounded like Pharaoh Monch.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Even their beats were different. So you can tell Organized Confusion shit right there. You know what I mean? And that in the world of trendiness is what's missing. Is the originality thing. Finding your own pocket.
I think the original guys, their whole thing was like the longevity process and being a part of the culture and the history and and having legacy. Whereas these guys now it's like microwavable. So they in and out.
Yeah, 30 seconds, I get it out.
Yeah, you hear all these different people. I don't even know half these dudes' names. It's like you ever see the B-level superheroes where their names just weird, bunch of weird dudes with weird names, and they just throwing stuff out and something like who is this dude? And then somebody somewhere is listening to it just because he posted it 1,000,000 times on the internet all over the place. So somebody's like, oh, he got to be good because he's on the internet.
Yeah. Radio played a big part in that. The change in radio programming and the way, and when the labels, I talk about that a little bit in the book in the Nipsey Hussle chapter. There was that like 2000, like 1998 to 2006 period where all the major label mergers were happening. And people don't really realize that also in that time frame was when Clear Channel and different things were buying up all the radio stations. Yeah, putting them all under one umbrella. So now we have, this is the playlist that we want to play every hour on the hour or the rotation. And that definitely changed a lot of things, but it's definitely a double-edged sword too. And I think I'm a firm believer in nothing can come out of the artist that's not in the person. I'm also like, I don't pass judgment on a genre or a style. It's also about the person and their approach to the creation, because even like I heard the Beastie Boys talking when they were early in their career, like an interview, whatever, and they were saying like at the time they didn't care about like honoring a legacy of hip hop. I mean, of course, too, at the time,
it was still in its infancy.
Yeah, it was still coming into its own. People weren't thinking about a legacy of hip hop at 50 years old, which is still crazy to think about how much hip hop has changed the world in less than 50 years.
How about that?
Yeah.
So there's also like, it's not a paint by numbers thing. It's kind of like there are certain things that you should definitely not do. But everything else is just is a blank canvas. And I think maybe to circle back to the originality point is like, I think also because we're seeing the success of people who are not original, they're in the right place at the right time. They have some attribute about them that is strong and is interesting and is musical. And we're seeing them have massive success. So how are you going to tell, especially a young person who hasn't dug into the Stevie Wonder catalog, how are you going to tell them that they should be patient and sweat and work hard and toil when XYZ, hopped on TikTok, made a video, and is now a millionaire, and and doing whatever he wants to do. So it's a double-edged sword, but I pray on me having an originality about me. I pray about that a lot, because it's like, again, it's like there has to be a reason why I'm so different in this way, and why I keep coming like this. And
you got old hip hop bones, Emma. You got old hip hop soul. Art, activism, artivism. What's the value of that intersection?
Oh, it's so powerful. It is really it changes the world. It is, I can be a creative person, and just through the things I care about, I can make sure that those things are taken care of. It's also like an expression of optimism, in the sense that I don't get off on talking about problems. Like, as a person and as an artist, I will hear an issue. I will love to diagnose an issue, especially if it's not clear what it is. Right. But my motivation is to make that problem obsolete. Bingo. And I think that's where where the separation happens, is like, even with like a lot of things were happening over the internet the last couple of years about like men versus women. And like you said, a lot of hateful speech, even with the xenophobia thing, a lot of hateful speech about people needing or not needing each other and whatnot, all this. But again, it's like a lot of people use the existence of a movement to justify rotating in the problems. And not being solution oriented or rotating in the solutions. And to me, as an artist, that's your lifeblood. That's what you wake up with. It even when it's not on your mind, it helps you make decisions. Because it's like, there's plenty of times I could have compromised or made negotiations about myself. Being a young woman in the music industry, I mean, how many stories have been coming out lately about how crazy it is here? It wouldn't be, I'd be lying if I said there weren't situations of me being in the studio, or me meeting some executive or something, and being asked or told or being put in a situation where it wasn't really feeling quite right. You know what I mean? But as a person with a sense of activism or purpose, or a perspective on self, community, world, community, self, coming from a lineage of people, Black Panthers I'm talking about, and Black arts movement activists, who the last poets, Afeni Shakur, Tupac Shakur, people like this, who had heart and soul, and where even people take for granted about Malcolm X, even people take for granted about Martin Luther King. Like, these people were putting their lives on the line for us to do what we're doing right now. And you got to think, like, in your life that you're living right now, I bet you're so busy doing everything you're doing, you can't imagine dropping everything so that you can go possibly save one life, or make life better for an entire generation, like put a whole generation of people on your back. Like, that may be inconceivable to some people, because it's like, but how is that going to pay my Con Ed? And if you tell them it's not, a lot of people are done right there. Like, it's a dub right there. So it helps me make decisions. Even with somebody like a Nipsey Hussle, again, there's a chapter dedicated to him in the book, where he's like, he makes it cool to have integrity. And to me, that's activism.
Isn't that sad though? That
you gotta be cool. That's cool not to be a clown.
Hey, you know what? It really is a good thing to have integrity. That's a sad, man. We definitely, it definitely.
But it's like, imagine if he didn't exist and that didn't happen. If I felt that, I'm sure at least 1,000 young men did, you know, and who's to say out of that 1,000 young men, you know, what's to come out of their good thoughts and whatnot. So long story short, activism is a way to keep a clear head in this world and to have purpose first, and to also to not be crushed by the demands and the suggestions of the world, because you understand that there's no power over you that's greater than the power in you. And if you ever come across likewise spirits, you'll know on sight. There's so many people that I'm beginning to meet as a result of writing this book or being in certain places, and just having conversations like this is like, man, you don't know how many years I went without being able to have conversations like this.
Wow.
You know, where you're surrounded by people who, again, are rotating in problems,
Right.
who are quick to tell you what you can't do, who are envious of you, and so you can't even tell them good news. Or when you do, they're basically crushing them on a spiritual and psychological level. Crabs in a barrel, all of that. So it also helps you attract your next level in life, but also the change in you that's necessary for you to be able to see the change that you want to see.
Right. Gotcha. Being accountable for your actions and your ways and your thinking.
With great power comes great responsibility. It's like, that's why I don't even worry about a lot of stuff now. But like people, oh, you should have been signed by now. You should have been. So it's like, I have a deep knowing, because I've stayed so solid, and because of my relationship with who I have as my Most High. I just have a deep knowing about me investing and watering in the things that I've been called to do. Because when the opportunities do unfold, and I get conversations like this, out of my mouth, from my heart, from my mind, through my eyes comes something that nothing in this world and no one can take away from me. And that's going to matter every single time, every single stage, every single conversation. And it's going to be really important too for other young people and other people and elder people coming home from prison, our elders who stopped believing in stuff a long time ago. It's important for them to see that too.
Yeah. Rob, before you go to your question, I just want to read one of the comments off of the IG. So DJ Kel all day said, I had this conversation earlier today. Integration is not always productive. Some things / people should not be intermingled. Yeah, Rob.
Damn, I lost train of thought right that quick. But I did want to know.
Thank you, DJ Kels.
Hip Hop Decoded by Black Dot. How was it digesting that book? And how has that book helped you understand hip hop from spiritual perspective and the esoteric perspective?
I really enjoyed reading that because not only was I getting a very dissected and organized thought process of what was happening in that time of hip hop now being the new pop, basically. And I'm talking about like the first big wave where Biggie's hot, Pac is hot, Wu-Tang's hot, Nas is hot, Jay is hot, and Jay's about to kill everything every summer. And now like hip hop is everywhere. To, like I said, that period, 98 to 2006, which is also encompassing 50 Cent rising, Kanye West rising, and the independent scene rising and shifting and changing. So he did a really great job of like giving me a context of what was going on. But like you said about that esoteric level, he took it up a notch creatively too, because he's tying in what some people call the fifth element, the knowledge element of like where things are coming from and how they were splitting off, and this whole argument of, you know, what was happening in 1991, 92, 93, where some people would say that's where the schism happened of like, okay, native tongues, now it's NWA and gangster rap what's happening. What's happening? You have people with medallions, and now they're not. They don't want to be. They don't want to be who they are anymore. They just want to rob and have gold chains and degenerate women. Maybe
we went from saying peace God to niggas with attitude.
Right. So some people say that's the big schism. So he made a great point of like putting everything on the table in that way. But then on the esoteric level, he had and that also inspired me as a writer. He weaved into the story his own story of like hip hop people of hip hop culture being like their own race of people, basically, and melanated people having these supernatural powers because they're melanated, and like this future happening where hip hop people and melanated people are now like having galactic adventures because of this culture and this thing. It was crazy, it's so creative. So that was like opening my mind. And then it's like, okay, and now let's talk about 50 possibly signing the Interscope and what that did. So it was like, so that was
Black Dot had me thinking that I was gonna be an X-Man.
That's amazing.
Like, if the industry didn't take hip hop and destroy it and make it this commodity and all of that, we'd have all been X-Men beatboxing out.
Oh my God, it's so amazing to think about. Still possible in a different way, but the only thing, and I told him this, and we had a wonderful conversation. Shout out to Black Dot. I actually spoke to him and got to be on the phone with him, and he was like thrilled about me doing the cover. He loved it. He reposted it. He was just like, this is so awesome. And the only thing that was the drawback for me with that whole book was like, he mentioned like 2 women in the entire thing. He mentioned Lauryn Hill and like that whole period of like, okay, miseducation happened, and then which he made a great point in, which I say in the rhyme about like Biggie was kind of almost weaving a spell with the way he was dropping stuff and the power in his music. And then Lauryn came out kind of in the midst of that spell being kind of weaved, and her music was kind of like cutting through the spell in a way. It was kind of like bringing fog, you know, and I thought that was a brilliant point. But then we just never heard about her again. And then the only other woman was, I think, Queen Latifah that he mentioned, maybe. So I was just like, damn, and this one story about like him going ballistic on like a secretary in the major label that he was rebelling against. So that was like the 3 women in the story. And I was just like, damn. I'm just saying, I think a lot of ladies, people still talk about that on Twitter. Like sometimes to be a woman and to be a hip hop fan and a music fan, it's like we have to have this like suspended dissonance as a listener, because like there's so much we can't even really enjoy because of what's being said and the intention behind stuff. But it's like we want to listen, we want to listen, we want to move, we want to be celebrated too. So that was my only drawback.
Yeah. It's interesting you would say like the suspended dissonance stuff, because as a male, I've often wondered how females receive some of the records. Because you see females listen to some of the records, and some of the records are very derogative, and they seem to enjoy and appreciate it also. I'm like,
and I'm not saying I'm any better, because I probably memorized the entire Chronic 2001 album, and for those who don't know, that was Dr. Dre's like coming back out party with Snoop, and he just hits after hits, and that album is full I mean, it is disrespectful, like full. And when I say I know most of that album word for word, like I probably sound crazy, but it's like I have a firm like it's deeper than, oh well, he's not talking about me. It's deeper than that. I just have a complete block. And I'm just like, but do you hear the way they put the rounds together?
You like it, yeah? You enjoy it.
You got a whole record called F You, right?
Yeah, the Nate Dogg comes on and he's singing the disrespect. Oh my God! So I'm just like, damn, this is really disrespectful. But the way he sung that is just so good. So it is a constant like, there's some stuff that I'm just like, I can't even And even some stuff that I don't even realize until later on, and then I have to turn it. I'm like, yo, I can't even do this. It's just so disrespectful. But yeah, it's a hard one. That one.
Yeah. Yada, you got one last question, Yada?
So, what's him? Tell us. We know the book's coming May 7th.
May 7th is like a week and a half away. It's crazy. So it's available. You can pre-order it now on Amazon, Goodreads, Barnes & Noble, Walmart, and directly from the publisher, from Wahida Clark's innovative publishing website. And again, just to highlight how amazing Wahida Clark is, she is known as the Queen of Street Lit, and she began her writing career in prison, and also created her publishing company while she was in prison, because so many people, upon like being in the pocket with the first thing she wrote, people started reaching out to her about how they could write and how they could publish. So she started helping again with the each one reach one. You don't have to be this, that, the other. Once you know something, once you know how to do something, you can teach somebody else. That's how it goes. So that's what she did, and ended up becoming a 4-time New York Times bestseller. What?
Wahida, we need you up here. We need to have a conversation with her too. Her story is amazing.
Come on, Wahida. Yeah, so I'm really grateful to be under her. The whole team right now is Black women. So shout out to
beautiful.
Aisha, we a superhero squad right now. So yeah, May 7th, forward by Pharaoh Monch. Y'all not gonna make me lose my mind. Notes from a hip hop unicorn, suicide survivor. Shout out to DMX.
Looking forward to it. So we got a game we play around here called Gimme 5, right? So the way it works is we're gonna basically give a topic, and you got to give us your 5 on it. We talked a little bit just now about, like, I guess, like the sort of the removal of women from hip hop history, or the whitewash of women from hip hop history and how they've been instrumental. The perfect Gimme 5 for us to close out with is give us your 5 top female artists.
Ooh, of all time?
Of all time.
That's crazy. You said hip hop or music?
Hip hop. Can't be music. Music is we be here for. I couldn't give you 5, but hip hop.
Okay, top 5 of hip hop as artists, just artist. Total artist. Okay, total artist. Lauryn Hill, Missy Elliott, Queen Latifah, Nicki Minaj. I'm gonna go there.
Okay,
I can see why.
I like that.
Total artist. Nicki, Lauren, Missy. What did I say? Lauren, Missy,
Nicki,
Queen Latifah, Nicki Minaj. Ooh, who is this 5th? Total artist. Oh,
yeah. She was right there.
Yeah,
right there.
A couple of people.
Total artist. Lil' Kim.
All right.
Lil' Kim. Now, you know something?
Yeah.
Nicki, it's interesting you said Nicki Minaj, because I had a person debate the heck out of me one time, like, Nicki Minaj she's trash, she's this, that, or whatever. To me, I'm like, it's subjective. If you don't like the music, you don't like the music. But to deny her talent,
come on,
is a talented artist.
Yeah.
Yeah. People forget, because she's been in our faces, respectfully, like, of modern times, going back like over a decade. People forget, like, the come up DVDs of her being a young woman in Queens, just
when she's with Fendi.
Spitting, writing in notebooks and spitting rhymes just because. You know, and when you listen, if you do ever hear like the songs that she was writing when she was with Fendi and them, like, those are heartfelt, MC, lyrical, like, songs.
One of my favorite records by her is not a lyrical record, but I think it really captured the time, was I Get Crazy. Like, remember I Get Crazy, then the kids were getting light and all that, or whatever.
Yeah,
like,
oh my God, the kids was going crazy over that. Yeah,
like, she was really on it.
And whether or not you want to say, like, oh well, she didn't have much competition, but the point is, She was the female artist and also one of the premier hip hop artists in a time where there was a scarcity. It sounds crazy to say because again, now everybody's rapping, but at the time she was one of the only people out and doing it at a certain level. And it may seem like, oh, it's easy because she's getting all this glory, but it is not easy to be in that spotlight and to show up and kill every performance and kill every track and pull together the right beats, the right songs. She was doing those features. She was doing every feature. Like, that's not easy. It's not easy. Yeah, go ahead.
I think her coming out party was Monster.
Monster.
That was the big one. Party. Your publicist is saying plug your website.
Oh yes, come on now. My government name, hey Maisha. That's my government name, Emilia Ottoo, EMMILIAOTTOO.com. If you ever just look up EMMA LEE M.C. And I come up, you'll always have a link in there to be able to reach the links of the book. Or my music on the different platforms. I'm also on Bandcamp and SoundCloud. So don't ever say I never gave you nothing free. Too. In Bandcamp, you can choose how much you want to pay for stuff. So it's very customer friendly on there. But also try to type in Emily M.C. because I believe there's a country singer named Emily. And yeah, so you might be like, this the one with the DMX. I am that see that. But at this point, I think I'm starting to see that I'm starting to flood. I'm starting to flood the waves.
Good. That means you're in an algorithm.
Yeah.
Thank you. Look, I really appreciate you pulling up and being transparent, sharing your story with us. Remarkable. I'll leave it at this. I don't know if Rob or Ken had to say anything else, but I think
everybody's talking with this young lady. Yeah. She got so much done. I went on your LinkedIn and looked at others. I'm like,
oh my God.
Yeah, he check it all.
When I do research, And you're working at A&E, and then
I am.
Rappers Out of Control.
Shout to them.
You're a coach for the Bronx Buccaneers.
I was a football coach too. Yeah.
Come on, son. Football coach, head coach.
I was raising y'all little boys. Yep. Yeah.
I think everybody's journey to heal is unique and it's their own. But I think sometimes that when we could share like our path that led to our healing, it could sort of be like the impetus to get other people to start considering and thinking about what their healing may be. So it'd be nice if we could end on that. If you could tell us like, how'd you start working towards your healing, given everything that you've been through as it relates to mental health?
Yes. For one thing, please do not jump on your phone as soon as you wake up in the morning. Just try. If you need 5 minutes, give it 10. If you need 10 minutes, give it a half an hour. Just when you first wake up, as soon as you ascend from your sleep, if you don't believe in prayer, just ask yourself how you're doing, check in with your body, and think about how you want to feel on this day and what you want to accomplish. And get up, take a stretch, drink some water. It's very important to have some kind of wake up routine that is not dominated by screens, especially when you first wake up in the morning, because your wake up brain is very precious and very sensitive. And whatever you give it first thing, it's going to run with that for the rest of the day. So having a wake up routine is a big part of my healing. And sometimes it's not when I first wake up, but I make sure I do the elements of it throughout the day. Right. And like I said, I explore my creative talents and strengths as a way to find more reasons to live. I found groups of people in sports, in business, in arts and entertainment, where having a role that was not front and center, but maybe was behind the scenes, maybe I was helping to put things together, gave me a sense of purpose and a greater understanding, not just of what I could contribute to, but the understanding that with more knowledge, I can be more powerful and I can discover more things to do. And I could possibly make more money just being myself. I become more valuable. I'm a person of more value because of what I know and because of my ability to do things.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yo, I have a thing that something just come over me. This sister's like a walking ancestor.
Thank you.
I don't know if she received that well.
I do. No, thank you.
Nah, because the way she speaks in depthly, as if she's been here or someone has whispered in her ear about what she needs to do, and her travel, her transgressions, just it refined her. It stuck her through a burning coal, so that she could come out shining and polished. And that's what we're getting. We're getting the polished EMMA LEE M.C. And Lord behold, what we got to see that's coming next. This whole deceit. That's my feeling, and that's what I wanted to share.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Emily. Y'all not gonna make me lose my mind. Notes from a Hip Hop Unicorn and Suicide Survivor release May 7th. Appreciate everybody for tuning in tonight on the No Ideas Original Podcast. We'll catch you next week.